Prompt. The city has been under siege for generations from demons who continually purify themselves against the walls. However, today you were given a summons to one of the inner districts, where you found the remains of a corrupted human. Submitted by Reddit user OxyCleans. The twisted creature only barely resembled a man, its form distorted so hideously from human that it almost rounded from contemptible back to pitiful, but our duty was clear. "We must burn it at once," the proctor said, lowering his hat over his eyes as he tried to keep the steel in his voice. The smell of charred flesh carried through the night air, tinged with a mix of blood and sulfur that had become all too common on winds over the walls. All in attendance tried to pretend as if they hadn't noticed it. "Pardon me, sir, but shouldn't we take it back for study?" "Why would we do such a thing? Abominations unto the Lord are to be burned, so that their ashes might find peace in the heavens." The law was clear, but the head student of Proctor John, a young Thaddeus Wimbilt, had always harbored a more inquisitive streak than the rest. "But, sir, it managed to breach the wall. Doesn't that change things?" The proctor's word was law, and to question an order was to come dangerously close to disobeying one, but the gathered student soldiers of the enduring sanctum, the last human city, were relieved to see that the proctor only laughed. "Not as much as you might think." The words were short and cryptic, as proctors, especially Proctor John, tended to keep their sermons, but the fact that the words had been spoken at all meant there was wisdom to find. Thaddeus, along with the other gathered students, quickly got to work gathering their herbs and oils, their prayer books and beads, and began the ceremony of purification. "Forgive us, Holy Father, our sins," the first began. "We stand united in holy servitude," said the second. "Our hearts filled only with your love," said the third. "So that we might stand vigilant against the hateful dark," said Thaddeus Wimbilt. The next part was spoken in unison. All who'd made it this far through training knew the words by heart. "Though man has fallen from your grace, we strive to reach your heights again, and though the faceless fall to hell on earth, we who remain will carry the light of faith." The twisted corpse of the demon creature began to writhe and scream as they ignited holiest oils overtop it. Several of the students began to shrink back from this, their first encounter in the flesh with a demon far more terrifying than they had imagined from their books and graven images. Thaddeus, however, held firm, his eyes fascinated at how the dark force puppeted the corpse like a puppet made from meat. "Hold the circle strong," the proctor commanded. "Let not its spirit escape to possess another." The other students reluctantly pulled forward again, chanting the prayer again and again and again as the corpse burned. Shadow and smoke poured from the demon thing's body, trying to find gaps in the student soldiers' ranks, only to rise and twist in spirals as it found it had no way out but to ascend toward the heavens and out of enduring sanctum. The more the demon spirit poured from the corpse, the more the corpse took form of man again. It went from a spiteful, hateful thing of claws and teeth and spines meant to strip flesh from bone, to something smaller and more delicate. Spines became hair, and foot-long claws shrank back to fingers thin as pencils. It went from a hulking creature taller than the tallest man to something the size of a child. They couldn't make out who it might have been, the flesh had been charred black, but it was a human corpse again. She couldn't have been older than 7. One of the student soldiers, prepared from lessons and not experience, was unable to handle the sight of such a thing. His daily rations spilled from his mouth to the cobbled streets as his knees buckled. "Hold position," Proctor John commanded. But it was no use. The student, young Hadley Thorne, was on his knees, held up only by a wildly trembling arm as he continued to vomit. Thaddeus was surprised, considering their sparse allotment of rations, that he even had that much to give. But a chill came in waves over the skin of his arms as he saw the vomit turn to blood. "The spirit has possessed him," Proctor John announced, taking his armaments of faith from beneath long, battle-scarred vestments. Taking place behind Hadley, he beckoned to the other students. "Widen the circle. We must purify them both." "No, wait," Hadley cried. "Please!" "But sir," cried another of the students, one of Hadley's longtime friends. Thaddeus had long suspected the two might even be entangled beyond the eyes of the clergy. "We have to help him." "We are," said the proctor grimly. "All we can save now is his soul." "I can fight it," Hadley moaned through blood and vomit, his fingernails peeling as he clawed his hand into the cobbles. Under his skin, Thaddeus could see growths starting to form, moving in ripples up his arms. "You're already gone," said the proctor. "Continue the prayer." "Forgive us, Holy Father, our sins," the students said together. "We stand united in holy servitude, our hearts filled only with your love, so that we might stand vigilant against the hateful dark." "Help me!" Hadley cried. The growths in his arms were splitting their way through the skin now. His peeled fingernails were pushed aside by long talons ripping through the soft underside. Proctor John cast the holy oils in his face, a lighter in his hand. "We cast you aside, demon." "Your mother was a faceless whore!" screamed the thing wearing Hadley's face. Its voice was a legion of filth and pestilence, thundering through their ears like the old jet engines that once powered the city gates. "She waits in hell for the day we can sew your mouth back to her teeth! Though man has fallen from your grace, we strive to reach your heights again. We'll peel the flesh from your bones in strips. We'll make each of you suffer beyond anything you know. The longer you make us wait, the greater our satisfaction will be when you finally fall," the demon screamed. Some of the students were crying now, screaming the prayer to drown out the hateful words of the demon. Thaddeus kept his eyes locked on it, however, desperate to study, to understand the enemy that had kept humanity trapped behind the walls for 100 years. They were inside the city now, in their deepest sanctums. The war for the soul of the earth was changing. "And though the faithless fall to hell on earth," the students chanted together. "I can wait a long, long time, Proctor John," the demon hissed. Its voice carried on waves of blood as much as the wind. "Hadley Thorne's soul will stay us for a long time, as will each of your failed students. Their agony feeds us well." The demon was standing, prowling the circle now, slashing its claws only inches from the faces of each of the students, but their faith held strong. "We who remain will carry the light of faith." "You won't live forever. When we finally have you, we'll shove you back in the womb." The proctor stepped forward to break the circle, armed with faith and flame. "And in your infinite wisdom may you finally deem the deluge of blood to be at its end." The thing that was Hadley Thorne erupted into flames, and the dance of shadow and smoke resumed as the spirit left his body, forced upward into the heavens where it would be cleansed in the scathing light of God's love. The test had been an impromptu one, and of the 13 who'd followed Proctor John, only 12 survived. Over the course of the night in their barracks, they were given the option for the last time to back down. There would be no going back once the students had spoken their vows. They would be pledging their souls to an unending battle against the darkness that blanketed God's abandoned kingdom. Only 3 returned to class the next morning, Thaddeus leading among them. "What happened out there last night?" he demanded, marching to the proctor's altar as the others took their seats in the chapel. "The walls are supposed to keep the demons out." "They are," the proctor said, not meeting Thaddeus in the eye. "Then why was it inside the city?" Thaddeus asked, his voice a fevered whisper. He had been contemplating it all night. "And why did you not seem surprised to see it?" The proctor's shoulders fell as he leaned against the altar. His eyes were weary beyond measure. "We're the first class to survive, aren't we?" Thaddeus asked. Proctor John smiled sadly. "Always an observant one," he said, his voice a mix of pride and regret. "This was your final test, but the hardest battles are yet to come. Evil isn't just fought in the flesh, you understand. The monsters at our gates can spill our blood, but it's the evils of the heart that claim our souls. We fight our hardest battles in the heart. So, any one of us could become a demon." "Yes," said the proctor. "Demons don't just walk the world as unholy abominations, they dwell within us. They have been with us for a long, long time, perhaps from our very beginning. Your class was the first to have only a single student fall to their evil, and to have even 3 of you be willing to carry forward, still willing to fight after seeing what you've seen, well, that gives me hope." Please be sure to leave a like down below if you enjoyed the story, and feel free to leave a comment with your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you all out there. If you'd like to hear more stories from me in the future, be sure to subscribe. I upload at the same time every week. Take care, and I'll see you all next time.